Well, thank you so much for joining us on Podium. It's such a delight to speak to you. So, where do we find you?
Yeah, well, thank you, Katie, Rich, Hannah. Thanks for this conversation, for this time. I am now in Vienna, Austria, which is now home sweet home.
So, I was very lucky to spend my birthday in Vienna. What would it have been? About 2 months ago now. I'd never been. It is such a stunning city, isn't it? I mean, it must be a
Uh,
pretty special place to call home now.
it is, and to be honest, so coming from Florida, of course, and I get homesick the most is in the spring to summertime. I miss that humidity, I miss that heat,
Mm.
but it's now warming up, and we had a really speaking for like I know Hannah can kind of push back a little bit. I would say a long gray winter. That's all relative, right? Depending on how far north you go. But yeah, I'm. It's a beautiful city. It's such a cool hub, a cool central spot to be. And yeah, I'm really just jumping into this. Yeah, head first.
Hannah, you must be very used to long grey winters training. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, it certainly does. I think I spent some time in Florida as well, and I'd say the weather when you come over to Europe is a brutal shock. But yeah, Christian, you've got a whole new role as well following retirement. Like, yeah, share what it is you're doing in Austria.
Yes. So now my wife and I are the co-high performance directors at the Austrian Federation. And so it's extremely exciting to be able to stay in the sport that I love, is something that's been a part of my life, something that feels like it's ingrained in my DNA. Of course, to share and to just pour out my experience and help coaches and athletes alike to hopefully get to this level and to build up their CVs and resumes, to get global international experiences that for let's say for the Austrian mentality seems like light years away. And I just try to shake the hands and share the experiences to let them know like I bleed the same way. I have fears and insecurities. I'm no different, right? Like maybe you saw me on YouTube, maybe you saw me, on a What Athletic stream, but like I'm not 2.5 meters tall, right? Like everyone that meets me is like, wow, I thought you were so much bigger. I expected, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm a regular person, just like you. Just, commitment, dedication, sacrifice. That's what it takes. So let's dream bigger. And so I think that's for me one of the greatest things now, just to see kids light up or these athletes that are nationally ranked athletes that now have this realization like he's not so different, and if he can make it, maybe I can too.
You know what? I met Kelly Holmes when I was about 17, just before she won double gold in Athens. And that's literally, I just remember looking at her and saying, "You've got two arms, two legs." Like in my mind, she was this superhero. She was just this other world person. And then to see her in
Yes.
real life and talk to her, I was like, whoa. Okay, like you,
Yeah.
you come from my country. You're doing things, and yeah, I think that'd be really cool for those guys to kind of get that chance to really interact with you.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, obviously in the U.S., I could relate a bit more, right? So if I was going through my old schools, my old stomping grounds, and I said like I was in detention here, or I had time out in this corner, right? And the kids were like, "What? Like you sat here? You sat at this desk?" But it's just like just trying to build that like bridge, build that bridge, and make it relatable. Really, I'm like, guys, I wake up and I don't want to train in the rain. No different than you. Like, you think because I'm an Olympic champion that it was always easy and always glamorous and I got to train at the nicest places. Sometimes, like, I was trying to find a hole in the fence to get to a track, right? Like, just to get access for one night. Or I would literally, there'd be no lights on the track and I would just have to, like, I saw the finish line when I got to it. And so there are all these ins and outs that they're like you're just like, oh, okay, wow, you have the same struggles I've had. And I think that can be really powerful.
How long did you take, Christian, to decide what you wanted to do after you retired? I mean, it's not even quite a year yet. And how have
No,
you settled into this role?
believe it or not, it was an absolute blessing. So I retired in August, so at the end of last season, and honestly, just said I've done track and field for so long, or athletics for so long. I just want some time to just see these cities that I've been competing in, uh,
Mm.
like for themselves. So I was like, hey, I asked my wife, can we just travel? Can we just explore? like all these amazing cities, but like outside of the track, right? Like as a professional track, you see the track and you see the hotel. Like that's the extent of all these glamorous cities through my passports. And yeah, we started traveling for about 2 months and hiking and yeah, doing all the museums, and it was fantastic. Austrian athletics called us up and just said like, "Hey, are you really retired?" We said, "Yeah, like we're officially retired. Just taking some time for us, just taking some time to explore." And they were just like, "Well, if you guys aren't going to go to the U.S., we would love to talk to you about an opportunity in Austria." And of course, we were like, yeah, we're open minded. After the travel, we'll sit down and see what this is like. And in November, so we did Thanksgiving in the U.S., came back to Austria at the right end of November, and basically sat in the office, and they were like, we have this opportunity. What do you guys think? We'd like to bring some of that American spirit, American collaboration spirit, and this confidence that these Americans have, and yeah, just share you two share your experience to like from track and field and help get us to the next level. And we were like, okay, yeah, this sounds like a cool opportunity. When are you guys thinking? And they basically just said, when can you start? Um, and so I was like, okay, like I'm glad I have a CV ready. So like I'll bring this in. Let's do an official interview in a few weeks. And literally, we did the interview in December, and it was the best Christmas gift ever. Like New Year's, I started, yeah, working this new job, and it's a dream come true
Were you nervous?
for the interview.
No, for starting the role. I mean, how do you transition from athlete mentality to more of a coaching mindset? I just wondered if suddenly everything you knew actually was in a different context and you thought, oh gosh, how do I pass this on?
Yeah, if I'm being honest, where I'm nervous is the stuff off the track, which now I realize how much is off the track to make the on the track stuff possible, right? So like I'm team leader for U20 European Championships or Balkan Games, and all this stuff that like pole transportation and if you need visas, like all these things that I've never like as an athlete, it's just there, right? It's like fill out the form, show up, go and compete, right? You don't think about all the details that have to go into account or into place for these uh, competitions to execute. And so the admin stuff, I'm not gonna lie, is kicking my butt. Like I'm in the office some days and just like, what am I doing? And like also to take into account, like it's like they speak German here, right? So I've
Mm.
had to do a fast-paced German course, and
Yeah, how is your
that
German?
yeah, it's the understanding is quite good.
Yeah.
Have the confidence to speak is very small, so I can do grocery and yeah, ordering food. It's the necessities, right? Like to survive. But from a conversational side, yeah, it's and they say like if I have a few drinks, like it gets better. It doesn't. Like so,
I love that
I've
you've
tried
tested
that.
that out though.
Yeah, that's what I always heard, right? If people speak English here, they're like, just give me a few drinks and my English gets better. And I was like, okay, maybe it works in reverse. You're not going to know more. Like, it's like you lose that knowledge, right? And so it's like, wow.
Does it help you this role replace the kind of buzz that you had for competing, Christian? I imagine it's such you must be on such a high. You were so dominant in your sport, but when it goes, what's that feeling like? And is there anything like this that can replicate that feeling?
That's actually such a good question because this was probably the biggest fear of retirement for me. It wasn't actually going into the workforce. It was like all these former athletes were telling me it's not going to be the same. You're going to struggle. There may be even a depression. You're just not going to find that motivation. And I was honestly scared of this, right? Like I was waiting this tsunami to come, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like where's my identity? And as I said, I feel like I'm so privileged to continue doing what I love, and on top of like my individual success, I wanted to share joy. I wanted to like share a bit of my story. I wanted to share any knowledge or anything I could to even, I don't want to say my top competitors, but my, my other colleagues that can help them succeed at the highest level. And that's essentially what I'm doing now. I'm not coaching any athletes per se day to day. I am helping with strategic planning and programming with the coaches, but to be able to speak to athletes about the importance of being punctual and actually not being fearful of asking the coaches questions, challenging the coaches, because in a respectful manner, right? But it's like, if you're asking, that means like you want to know more. You're trying to grow. It also challenges the coaches to get to like know the knowledge, and not just leave it with because I said so. But it's like, yeah, but why? Like, where in this training are we? And so I say all this to say that like I was very fearful and nervous what was to come, but I'm so motivated and so excited with the work that I do. And again, now my first international team is going to be with the U20, right? Like, I'm going to be in Tampere, and this is such a cool age of athletics, right? Because it's also almost that make or break window. It could be the last point of some people's career, right? Because they'll go into the workforce after this if it doesn't go well. But then you'll also see those rising stars, and I think that's really a special moment.
We actually talk about it quite a lot in sport. It's not so much, in something like track and field, in athletics, you're not earning similar kind of wages to, soccer players, American football players and stuff. And we talk often about if there's like almost enough support, whether it would be great to have more support for what happens when you retire. A lot of people, especially if you come from the American system, you're studying as well. Elsewhere, maybe not the case. Could there be a little bit more support maybe for when athletes retire?
I think honestly, Rich, it's about perspective, right? And so because let's be honest, there are a lot of football players, soccer or football, that make life-changing money that go bankrupt, right? And so whether you have, or you can focus on the have or have nots, in the end, if you prepare yourself for life after sport, because for everyone we will retire, right? We cannot be an athlete 50, 60. Like, there will be an end date, and to get an education, to get learn a trade, to prepare for that next step, everyone should do it. And so I of course advise and hope that the ones that do have the opportunity to make money during their career, put some aside. Like, think about the rainy day, think about life after sport. For some, if you have the ability to invest in some things, like, take that chance, or get a CD and be super conservative, right? And just put money away and let interest grow. But at the end, like, we all have an end date when it comes to sport life, and it's about like how responsible we are when we are in this life, to prepare for the next. And so for me, it was just talking to those. I was always very close with the older athletes, because I was like, hey, what's next, right? And so I came into at 2011 was my first World Championships in Daegu, and I literally came from NCAA and was just like, okay, how do I make this transition? Right? Like, I didn't want to just figure it out. I was just like, okay, please let me speak to the older veterans. What is really important, right? And they were like, make sure you have a foam roll, make sure you have like a stretch band. So this is pre-massage guns and all the fancy stuff they have now, right? They were like, have a foam roll, have a stretch band. Like, we're not used to drinking sparkling water, right? So they're like, make sure that you're looking at the difference when you go to the grocery store between still and sparkling, right? So it was just like learning these little tricks, how to deal with jet lag. I just have always planned for that next step ahead of time, and talk to people in that space, because then I was mentally prepared.
I think there's this big taboo I feel like it's in athletics, I'm sure it's in other sports as well, that it's like a weakness to talk about finishing. And it becomes this kind of thing that no one talks about. And if you even entertain it, then you've already failed.
Right.
You're already giving up. And I think it's a really toxic mindset to have, because it just builds up that fear, and that puts that barrier in there to getting ready for it. And I think I prefer those training groups when it's much more healthy, when people are talking about what they're going to do afterwards. They have role models, and it's an open conversation, because I think there's a lot of yeah, a lot of sort of 20-year-olds that think, this is it. And to succeed, I have to believe this is it. And, there is no after, and you can't even think about that. And it
Do
can
you,
be
do you
tough.
think that's because they're seeing that if they say anything beyond their life of athletics, that it's like a lack of commitment or something, Hannah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
I
Wow.
definitely saw that in high performance sport. It'd just be like, what, even kind of saying, I want to, in September, I might go and take a course, even just, just a few credits, because I want something out. Why are you doing that? Like, you should
Right.
be on a training camp. You should be doing that, and that's even in a sport like athletics, where your training hours aren't anywhere near the volume of triathlon or swimming or gymnastics, other sports that have much higher training volumes. It's just this kind of, why risk it? Why have something in there interfering? Just be 100% focused in. And yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. So if the Austrian youth can have a better perspective, then that'll be
But
cool for them.
But Hannah, if I can piggyback off that, like you actually said, so taking a course, and I don't even know if you realize it, right? But you talked about like doing something else would be interfering with your training, right? But in fact, it has nothing,
It
like
doesn't.
two are completely separate. And I think that's the perspective, like especially in athletics, like if you're doing anything outside of, I mean, unless you're partying, like this is accepted,
Yeah. There
right?
are
So
some
let's
things
say
that
that.
don't enhance your
Yeah,
athletics. Yeah.
you're right. But it's like this is not frowned upon if you're at an after party, right? But if you're like, oh, I'm taking a course to prepare for life after, it's like, oh, you're not all in, and it's so weird to hear this or to experience this, and it's like, no, I'm 100% in, but I know there's an end date, right? And what is your plan afterwards? And it's like, well, I'm living in the moment, right? Like, why would I think about what's after? And it's like, well, it's going to come.
Can we go back to those bright moments of your career, Christian? So we'll go back to when you were so dominant. Can you tell us what it feels like to be that big game performer that every time you were turning up, it felt like you were winning all the time? I mean, you were this fixture that was just on top of the podium.
It's like
What
Midas
did
touch. Everything
yeah?
you looked at.
Did it feel different at the time, and do you look back at it differently now?
The thing is, I from my perspective, I mean, it may be others in the position would say the same. You you really remember the losses more than the wins, and so I think I was in this like hunger state where you're seeking perfection every weekend, and so I would not, which is crazy to think about because it was like at one point in my life I dreamed to be in the Diamond League, um, and it was like I got to the Diamond League and it was just like, okay, it would be great to win a Diamond League, and then it's like, oh, it'd be cool if I could make it to the final, and bit by bit as things started to really come together, like the bar just continued to move, right, and so I never found this complacency, or I never found this place where I was satisfied. But then to really go back to your question, like you overlook those wins, you overlook those moments where like you're there or you're the man, you're that guy. I look back at it and it's like, wow, that was really special. But in it was always to the next. Wow, I jumped 17. I have a meet record. I jumped 1770. If I would have attacked the board better. Like I was always so focused on the things I didn't do, and it's something I share now. Like enjoy those moments because you don't know what can happen next week, next training, and it is really special to be at that place. But I can tell you, really, when I was there, I didn't think twice about it because I was just always seeking Jonathan Edwards, to be really honest. Like it was like I was locked in on him.
Well, that was going to be my next question, Christian, was how much, and be brutally honest with us, how much was the world record just emblazoned in your mind constantly through that real bright spell of your career and the dominance?
Yeah, this was the greatest and worst thing of my career, right? So that was the greatest motivation I had, and the biggest source of disappointment that I had. Like I always said that if I finish my career at 1821, I'm the second best in history. That sounds nice, but like uh, at the end, no, like my name does not have a WR by it, right? So history will continue, and when people speak about the triple jump, they will speak about Jonathan, right? And I thought with each year passing, my name will slowly fade, and it's not to take away what myself or my team were able to accomplish. Like I'm extremely grateful, but I'm just really being completely transparent. Like as it was so motivating to be 8 centimeters away, but when I got back to the hotel room and the press conferences were over and the family went and celebrated with themselves, like the room was very lonely. And I thought, wow, it's a gold medal, it's a world championship. I'm so grateful, but it's not enough. And that just continued to ring in my head. It's still not enough. Even on my
When we
best,
look at
it's not enough.
when we look at that world record mark, like when do you think you could have done it but you missed it? Like, are there key kind of days or competitions in your mind when you go, that was the one, that's where I could have done it?
Honestly, so there's Birmingham Diamond League. Myself and Teddy, Tom Go, because again, I was very close with my competitors. We would speak very openly about the shape we were in and how we could, I don't want to say partner up, but work together to line up competitions that we wanted. We were literally seeking to be the best entertainers. And so we were just constantly saying, hey, when you or I show up, we need to put on a show. And Pichardo, like, of course, got in on this also and would say, like, hey, we want to push 18-meter barrier. We want to push the world record. Like, the three of us can make really history, right? And so we were just constantly seeking of pushing the mark and making triple jump a topic, which was so special for us. But yeah, the Birmingham Diamond League, I think in 2015 or 16, things were really lined up and I was in really good shape. And again, I was always like additionally motivated to do it in Jonathan's backyard, right? So I always wanted to do it
Fair,
on
fair.
his
Love
soil.
that.
Um, of course, mentally, I would say London 2012, right? Again, the added motivation in front of him. But then also like Brits are crazy for athletics. So like this to be there with Jess and Ennis and Usain, like I feel so honored to be on the track with them. Mo, right? Like at that time, this was incredible. So to be a track fan, but to be a track athlete, it was. I saw Rhodesia, like he ran the 800-meter world record during my final, and it was like that was one of my highlights of my Olympic games. It was like during my winning performance, I actually got to see the 800-meter world record and the
Wow.
fastest final ever. Like it was like wow. So that was really cool. But yeah, there were just I would say between 2016 and 2015 and 2017 at any moment I like everything was just aligned. My weight was good, my life outside of track was very good. I had a very good balance. um I just felt like things were in a really good place.
Do you think you're at peace with it now, Christian, now that your career as an athlete is over and maybe you gain more perspective on it?
Yes. So basically one thing that I share now and that I've really accepted is I gave my all, right? So I've had a career that I'm extremely proud of, and like if I say anything negative against it, it's almost like a lack of appreciation, right? And so there were so many people that would say like I would have been so happy to fill in the blank, right? Like any of these achievements. And while I was going through it, like I didn't see it like that, right? It was just like, yeah, it's good, but yes, it's good. But I had this obsession with this world record, right? Nothing else, everything else was nice, but I just wanted to put my name in history. Like I just thought that was like I could say I was the greatest all time. But now I just think like I have no regrets because I couldn't have done more, right? I moved to Loughborough, right, where I didn't even know where this was on the map, right, at first.
Bet you didn't know how to pronounce it
There's
either.
a lot of people in
Yeah.
the UK that don't know where it is either, I reckon.
So, I was in East Midlands and I was like, you know what? No one can say I'm not fully committed. Like, I'm not all in. Um, you know, then I moved to Holland, right? And So it was like I followed my coach. I tried the diets. I was completely dedicated. I gave this up. I miss weddings and anniversaries, and you think of all the things that you did to achieve your dream. And whether it works out or not, it's like, you know what? But I gave it my all, and that's the thing that I had control over. I was not able to achieve that mark, but I can still hold my head high, saying that like that's all I had, and I'm okay with that.
There's not many people in elite sport, Christian, who almost have to relearn the sport again by doing it a completely different way. So you don't see tennis players who have to start playing with their left hand and then they're still winning Grand Slams, right? But you had to
Right.
do pretty much the same thing with your takeoff leg. So
Yes.
that's an incredible achievement anyway for what you continue to do after that. But do you sometimes look at it and go, well, what if I didn't have those knee problems? Would I have been able, back to the original takeoff leg? Do you think that would have been the world record, for example?
To be honest, so actually the switch I should have, and I love my club coach that taught me how to triple jump, but I wish I would have started from this leg from the beginning, right? So I think I just was not jumping correctly from the start, and this did help the transition happen so quickly because it was like this is actually how I should have been jumping. And so yeah, my regret from that was I wish I would have just learned how to jump from the other leg. But then secondly, I wish when I switched legs that I also learned just how to use my arms better. So I kept the same slow technique of being this double arm jumper. And again, with Jonathan, with many of the speed jumpers, they literally just ran off the board. And I think if I were just able to keep more speed, have a higher velocity, those are the things that get me. Those details. It's like, well, if you're gonna start over, you might as well like all the things now implement it, right? And I was so fixated on like I'm world Olympic champion. I have to get back. Like the Olympics are 2 years away. I don't have much time. So what's the quickest way to come back? And yeah, I came back and I came back better, right? So I went from 1796 to 1821. Again, I should be grateful to start over and be better than before. But it's like, I know this sounds weird, but would it have been better to take a bit more time to reach my true dream, which was the world record holder, than to rush back to be? I know this sounds weird, to be world champion.
Wow.
That's like the things that when you're alone in the mirror, those are the questions you have.
I was going to say, is this what keeps you up at night?
Yeah, those are the
Thinking
things
if
that
only.
would make you toss and turn.
But that is so fascinating, isn't it? Because it's so subjective, and yet there are also athletes out there who becoming a world champion is absolutely everything they would ever want. Becoming Olympic champion, you've done all of that. So it's fascinating that still there was just always that more and that thing that, that personal accolade, like I am the best. Everyone now has to come at me.
Yeah, I just think this is why I was able to achieve so much, right? Because it was this constant obsession. Like there was really no other way. Like I just had this absolute lock in on I wanted to be the best ever. Like I love everything else that has happened. The Diamond League titles, that was fantastic. Like I love world relays, continental tour, like all the things I got to experience. Incredible, right? But like those things would fade. And I believe, though a world record will be broken at some point, right? At one point, I could say in history of everyone that's done it, like at one moment, even if someone breaks it the following week, I was the best to ever do it. And yeah, I was always seeking that.
Do you look at it though, then, Christian, as the best that can ever do it is the best, is the furthest that anyone has ever jumped before?
Yes.
Because you still look at Jonathan Edwards' career. You're a more decorated athlete than him. You ended up dominating the sport longer than he did. You've got more honors, so you could look at that and go, well, from that point of view, people could make the argument that you are the greatest of all time. It's not like you were a million miles off before. So you had that longevity.
Yeah, and there are a lot of things. The thing is, I was also
Lots of ways
grateful
of looking at it, isn't there?
when I surpassed, like my average was greater than him, right? So I had more jumps at a further level. So yes, but at the end of the day, if I was sitting across the table and we have this conversation, who's the GOAT, right? Who's the greatest to do it? I respectively would say like you, like I would give it to you.
Have you had that conversation, the two of you?
No. That's a tough, that's a tough pill to swallow, right? So,
Yeah, I was going to say, please,
yeah,
can we come when that happens?
I was going to say this, but I love the idea at 2 a.m. you can't sleep, you get up and you're like, but my average top 10 was better.
yeah,
You can have all
exactly.
these mantras. But no, the way you talk about that pursuit of excellence, I think that's where I see really happy, fulfilled athletes when they are just striving to be the very best they can, and that's at whatever level for me, whether that's whether it's a junior or university or professional. And it's pretty much what Mondo Duplantis said the other day at one of his press conferences. Someone said, "How are you still motivated?" He's like, "Well, how would I? I'm either obsessed with perfection and self growth, or I'm not. Like it's kind of a side note what's happening on the track if you have that kind of pure mindset." And I think that's that sounded like what you were articulating as well.
Yeah, yeah. I found that really with I mean, I talked to Hugh Zongo last year, right? And I can talk about many jumpers that I've spoken to throughout my career, and many people said like, how did you keep that fire going, right? And for Hughes to say like he's the most decorated athletics athlete in history, right? Of Burkina Faso, and like you can imagine the pedestal he's on now. But for him, he's like surpassed a world record holder. He's a world record holder, right? Like he's surpassed probably any of the goals that he's had for himself and the country has even like thought was in his future. But then he also came to me and was like, "How do you keep that fire going?" And I told him that my goal was to be an Olympian, and I thought it'd be great to be Olympic champion. But my fire was always so bright because it was like, but I don't have a WR beside my name. And I told him this. I said, you have something that like I never achieved. You have an indoor world record, right? And I really that was the thing that just haunts me.
You've spoken a lot there, Christian, about the camaraderie and even just names you're picking out and the conversations you clearly have. It's so cool to, well, I think for us to personally get an insight into that. But also, I think what a lot of fans think and feel sounds like it's true, that there is this real sort of brothership and sistership of the field events. And when you go into battle together, there is such a respect and friendship for each other as well.
I will tell you, Katie, like honestly, because I had the privilege of also doing 400. The
Mm.
call room is completely different between field adventures and
Wow.
track. Like
Oh my God, take us there.
More detail.
for jumps, it's like, hey, do you need me to watch the board, like to see how you are in your approach? If you would go to a sprinter and be like, do you need me to hold your blocks? They would literally be like, get out of here in the nicest way, right?
Did you
So
find that annoying or funny?
for me, it was hilarious because I thought like because of my mentality, it just annoyed them more, and I just thought, well, now
Nice.
I'm just going to use this to distract you, right? So I'm just going to be myself, and I know this is going to annoy you more. So sometimes I would bring like my jump shoes and be like, like wrong spikes, and they would just be super off. Like
Who's this
even when I was at
cowboy just turned up?
yeah, like at World Relays, I remember Warren Weir was there. So I was doing the prelims of the 4x4, and Warren Weir was running also in the qualification round, and he literally came and sat beside me, and he was like, "No disrespect, what are you doing here?" And I was like, "I mean, I earned my spot."
He's
Like,
Jamaican, right? He's on the Jamaican
yeah,
squad,
yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And so like then obviously his squad came because they were like, what are y'all two doing together, right? Like we're about to race. And he was like, no, like you're a jumper, why are you here? And I said, no, like I'm also a sprinter, right? And he was just like, well, like I guess USA is not making the final. And I was like, awesome, like this is exactly what I needed to hear. And so then
You're like, hold
afterwards,
my jump spikes.
yeah, exactly. Like, and then after, like, obviously, like, we went 1 and 2 for the qualification round, but like, I outdipped Jamaica, and so I was just like, well, I guess it's pretty good for a runner, right? And like, he's laid out, he was only doing 200s that year, and so he was just like, right, cool, see you tomorrow. But it was just like, for me, I just enjoyed almost annoying them.
Who doesn't?
love it. I love it.
That's brilliant.
I love it.
So sort of on that topic then, I guess we'd love to know your thoughts on Grand Slam track, but in opposition to that, the complete lack right now of Grand Slam field, and how the two, could they combine? Do they combine? Does field need to do something on its own?
To be honest, as we spoke about before, I love that we're talking. Like, I love that Michael Johnson, his team, Grand Slam track is another opportunity for athletes to make money. It's another opportunity that track and field gets exposure globally. I love that there's big pots of money that athletes can win. So I think there's so much good that will come from this. I think there's so much good that's going on. It's obvious that, of course, I'm going to touch on the lack of field representation. And this for me is, as I always go back to, is perspective, right? So we can sit around and say, why not? Like, how come? What about us? Or we can like pat him on the back, say, thanks for taking a step. Let's follow that lead. Let's find an opportunity for ourselves. Or why is there no field, right? And so I just think it's we need to have more conversations. But what one thing I never wanted to do was kick someone that's trying, right? Like I want to elevate them. I want to encourage them. I want to thank them. And let's learn from it. Let's build on it, right? And so is there an opportunity that there can be Grand Slam field? What does that look like in the coming years? What do the field events need to do to be a part of a program like this, or make our own program?
That was going to be my question. Is like, why do you think field isn't attractive to some people, some some TV, whatever? Why do people think it shouldn't be this too? Some people actively think I don't want it, and some people will just say it doesn't add anything. I like, us three love field events. We get really into it. We get really geeky about it. But like, why do you think that that's not always coming through in sort of a televised product?
Honestly, just relatability, right? So if you don't understand Ryan Krauser throwing a bowling ball, right, like 24 meters, like it's how do you relate to this? Most people know athletics from their gym class in school, right? Who's the fastest in the school? Uh, who's the fastest in English schools? Like, so they have some level of understanding of athletics, but who's the fastest? Who's the strongest? There are some fundamental basics of athletics that people can relate to. If I'm a marathon runner, maybe I do some long distance running like in my spare time. I know after 5K, 7K, well, that hurts. That's uncomfortable. So I can't even fathom what it would be like to go through 1K at this time, or So I think there's that bridge with fields, right? Like you see Mondo, unless he's in a mall, unless he's like beside a building, that you have something to like tangibly say that's high. Yeah, it's super impressive what he's doing, but a 6 meter jump, like what does that mean to the average Joe?
Yeah, that's such a good point, actually, because that's something I always try and say in my commentaries, or when I'm doing, a radio hit with a radio station in England. And I always use with the women's one, for example, 5 meters. That is, if you look at a London double decker bus, that is 4 meters 60 centimeters. So they are doing a double decker bus and then some. You look at the
Right.
men 60 plus, which Mondo obviously hits every time he comes out to compete. That is the size of your average 2-story house. I mean, that's mind-blowing, isn't it? And maybe
Yeah.
it's just that people can't understand that. But I do think if you go into a stadium, you can, when you see it with your own eyes.
But then I
The
think
problem
some
is
people
also,
say, yeah. So I was going to say, some people say you need to take the field out of the stadium and let the spectators get closer, and then they're actually going to see that. Because almost if you're over on the other side of an oval, and you still can't really contemplate, really what they're doing over there. So some people say these street events are the future, like let the fans get closer.
so I will say, let's say from like one standpoint, I would say Newcastle was always the city games. I would give them a shout out. That was always one of the highlights of my season. Because of course, like you're jumping right beside a bar, people are having pints right beside you. But it's like at this moment when you take off, right? Like and they look at the board and it's like it hits them, right? Like, that's 8 meters. Like, I hear the number, right? And I literally remember, like, Greg Rutherford and I, we were jumping at the meet, and after 2012, and so obviously, like, we were both on our Olympic high, and we jumped at the competition, and I remember someone saying, like, I saw 8:31, like, I saw the numbers on the screen, and I was so happy, right, like, that a Brit won, but, like, I didn't understand how far that was until you were jumping in front of me. And I think at this meet, maybe he won with 770, right? But it was just like the fact that it was like, I thought you jumped far today and you jumped further at the Olympic Games, right? And so it was because they were like almost in hands reach from us that it was like, wow, okay, like now that I'm so close, I can actually appreciate like the performance.
I'm not expecting you to come up with the answer here, Christian, but that is those perspectives are that is what really gets appreciation from the sport from new fans, right? But people have to be there to see it, don't they? So what is the answer to hammer that home for the casual fan at home who hasn't been inside that stadium, who hasn't been at that mall, who hasn't been on the city games? What do the field events need to do to make that more glamorous without the people being there in the first place? That is a tough job, isn't it?
I would say, and like, I hope this is not taken out of context. Like, safety is always number one, but for me, the fan experience is such a for me, low hanging fruit opportunity that if a fan holds a shot, like if a fan does a standing broad jump and they're gonna jump 2 meters, right? And you think, okay, well, that's where you are. This is what it takes, right? So it's like it just makes it tangible. So and I would say, like, if someone at home, yes, maybe you have the VR, right? All this virtual reality to really make it. But I think we create these connections through experience, and if you don't experience in school, like, how are we going to be able to experience it as adults? And the reason I say from the safety side, because you don't want someone like completely sprinting on these these woodway track runways, treadmills, and hurting themselves, to understand like how fast people are actually going. But I think it does take these experiences to really get an understanding and appreciation on what's happening in front of them.
And I think the
Sorry, Hannah.
problem is, like, you guys make it look so easy.
Exactly.
And that's the problem,
Yeah.
isn't it? When you've
Yeah.
got a master in an event, winning global titles, they make it look really easy, and that does happen in some of the other disciplines as well. You know, when they look better than everyone else, it kind of looks easier for them. But I think even more so in the field events. Something like the triple jump, the technical aspects of the triple jump are mind blowing, and pole vault. But you guys make it look easy.
But Hannah, like, honestly, I work with female long jumpers now, right? And they're jumping, let's say 520, 530 in the long jump. And I say, like, well, that was my goal for a hop, right? And they were like, but that's my personal best, right? And so it's like that just gives them perspective, because when you say, yeah, let's say 6 meters per phase, but when I'm saying, like, well, your all out best for the long jump is 550. This is exactly, look at World Athletics data, right, from the championship. It's exactly what I was doing in my hop.
Mm-hmm,
And they're
mm-hmm.
like, and you kept going from that, right? And so it's like, boom. But it's at that moment, then it's like, now I've got a fan.
There's definitely an appetite for it. That's the thing, Christian. Like, there seems that the field event equivalent of Grand Slam track that can happen, right? And we've talked about the brotherhood and sisterhood that happens within field events, but do those athletes from the different events need to almost come together? I mean, it's great to see Mondo's meets. It's great to see Mutaz Bashim is doing,
Yes.
Ryan Krauser's shot put league, but is it going to succeed without in fragmented like that, or does it all need to come together to be something instead?
The thing is, those are starting points, right? And so it's like, again, I want to encourage and salute and show my gratitude, appreciation for those individuals that have literally said, like, I'm just going to create something, like, I'm going to make something happen. There does need to be buy-in, commitment, but outside of this, like, let's just be really honest. Michael Johnson has a big financial backing, right? And so if you have partners that are saying, "Hey, live," right? Look what they did with golf, right? It's like
Mm.
anything is possible when you have the money backing it, right? And so I think yes, we have to make field event interesting. We have to like make it that an investor wants to support this. But then outside of that, there needs to be also a buy-in. Like we cannot have then we do all this framework and then you have athletes saying, well, I don't want to compete against this athlete on this week. And so we also, as athletes, have to hold ourselves accountable and say, well, if there is this opportunity, are you willing to do what it takes to make this happen for all of us? And unfortunately, track and field is a selfish sport. Um, and that sometimes hurts us.
And is it important to you to keep track and field together? And I know that might sound like a stupid question, but when you've got Grand Slam track, if there was an option of Grand Slam field, is that more important than, say, another investor coming along that's separate to Grand Slam track and saying, hey, we've got this vision for field events, we're going to do all these magical, wonderful things, here's a wad of cash, off you go, but it's now going to be seen as a sort of separate sport, maybe?
I just think we like for athletes, any athlete watching this and listening, like we also have to know that IOC is watching, right? And so, and there will be steps to get to the Olympic level, but if we accept leagues and series and we try all these things and they're saying athletics can go on without these events, they will remove these events from the Olympic Games and replace it with, and I don't want to pick on any other new sports that are now being in the Olympic Games, but they're looking for the trendiest things now and uh, looking at viewership and
You're
the
not a fan of flag football
Olympics.
then, Christian?
I don't want to because the last thing I need are haters now.
He's checking the Austrian team whether they're based in Venice.
But there's just I think we all have understanding or a respect of what the Olympics are, where they came from, and key components of that. And I'm not going away from artistic things, and like there's a place for all. But when we're having conversation on where do esports come alongside Olympic sport, it's like if we drift this conversation too far, we're playing with fire. And so, really, to go back to the original thing, like if we separate ourselves too much, IOC will look at this and say, well, World Athletics accepts it, European Athletics accepts it. Why should we? This would actually give us 30 spots, 60 spots that we can put in whomever. And that for me, I always said that athletics, track and field, like we're one body. And that's for like really out of stadium competition to infield, right? We're all part of athletics, and if we dismiss or underappreciate one of them, like it kills us all.
Yeah, and I think I'm pretty passionate about. I know you didn't ask me, Katie, but you're going to get my answer anyway. I'm pretty passionate about the fact that a kid should be able to walk onto a track and see somewhere they want to be. And I think the more we siphon off our sport into those different disciplines, the different event groups, the more likely you are to lose that kid if they can't see a place themselves. And or just anyone in the stadium should be able to look up from their seat if they're being informed correctly about what's going on in the stadium or watching on the TV. They should be able to see something that really grabs their passion. And I just hate it. I'd hate it if we fragmented. And this is from a boring endurance runner.
But also, actually, Christian, you kind of said it best in your London 2012 final, where you're literally trying not to get distracted by David Rudisha doing ridiculous things on the track. You've got Mo Farah running, you've got Usain Bolt, you mentioned, all these amazing things all happening at once. That's kind of the USP, isn't it, of track and field?
Absolutely. Like for me, that was the greatest part of being like waiting for the medal ceremony. I was like, I just saw you guys like light the track, and the stadium was like I get goosebumps every time I talk about it because it's like I've never experienced a stadium like this, right? And just to see these history 7 lanes from me, it was just like, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. And I was just so grateful to be sitting there in my podium outfit and then see them coming in and like for David to be like, hey, did you go to drug testing yet? Or are you going after it? And I'm like, oh, like that was unreal. Like, can I just give you a hug? You know, like I was just so pumped. And yeah, then he was like, yeah, sorry, I was busy. How'd you do? You know, and I was like, I had nothing but time to watch you.
Busy.
Right? Like I watch you. Like I know you're not going to look over there on the side, but you know, it's just like
You're like,
moments
here's
like
my
this that,
gold.
yeah. And you know, it's just like I think this is what athletics is about. We're all parts of that body.
We've seen what governing bodies are trying to do to try and change the sport as well then, because you talk about the trends and what the IC want to see, and that leads us on to innovations in sport, right? Sometimes they're popular, sometimes they're not very popular. The takeoff zone is the big one. So what are your thoughts on that? Is that the right way to go?
I don't think there's going to be further discussion about it, to be really honest. I really want to say that I'm for innovation. I'm for having discussions on fan engagement and how are we going to increase our view. Like all these things are important for sustainability. Like we cannot continue doing the same thing and knowing that the trends, like we're going to get left behind. I'm all for it. I get it. Lights on the track. Like I love it. Let's try things. Let's experiment. I don't think we should try things at a world championship. I don't think we should try so there's a certain time and place to try things. I think there's also a certain age group to try things, right? So maybe not introducing it at a diamond league, the top level, right? Like so I think there are other ways of going about it. But for me, a takeoff zone, it's no longer this. It cannot be compared to the stress, the pressure, the importance of taking off on a mark, right? This would be equivalent of a sprint that you can sprint
Like
when
a
you
running
like.
start or something, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's
But
like we'll shoot the gun, but like if you're not ready, right? Like you just go when you like.
Take your time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can't go
Yeah,
before
'cause
it, but like like if you feel like it's time to go, then
it comes from a good place, though, doesn't it? In a way, because it goes back to that conversation that we were. I'm not saying I'm before or against it, but you can kind of see where the thinking comes from, because it goes back to the conversation about perspective and just seeing people do these things which are almost like superhuman to most people. So literally, how far can someone jump without having to worry about the line that they've got to stop before? And you kind of get what the thinking is, but it's just it's maybe doesn't quite
Make
work
it an
out with the purity
exhibition
of the
then.
sport.
Don't
Exactly,
put
yeah.
it. Yeah. Exhibition event.
again, I love Newcastle, right? So Manchester, like you have so many street races, street meets, American Track League. Like there's so many opportunities that takeoffs don't like have fun, no problem. Um, to do it at the highest level and to even compare it with like it should not even be in the same conversation with someone that like you're comparing apples and oranges, right? Someone had to put their foot down at one moment, like at the right time to jump literally nearly 9 meters. And now you're going to say, take off where you like, and we're going to measure from again the stress. That is the hardest part of the jump. That's the most difficult part, and that's why I
It's the
compared it to
essence.
the
It's like
block
that. It's
start.
like the Friends episode where they take the cushions out of the sofa. Or whatever. You're taking the essence out of a
The essence
horizontal
of the
jump.
chair.
Yeah, that's the biggest barrier, literally, right? So you can have people saying, I had big jump today. Yeah, what happened? I fouled, right? So it's like that is literally the biggest barrier of our event, and you're taking this away. Well, it's no longer the same event. Congrats! Like if someone jumps 9 meters, fantastic. But it's cannot be compared to someone that had to do this from one point.
Well, it's like we have in the endurance events with the sub-2 for Kipchoge, or this 4-minute mile attempt for Faith Kipyegon. They're going to break. I assume for Faith Kipyegon, they're going to give her a barrage of male pacemakers running exactly the right pace and maybe some different shoes. Like, yeah, we were starting to have those exhibition events in endurance. Like, yeah, why not do something like that? Yeah, make it a one-off kind of spectacle. Yeah, how high can Mondo actually go? Like, let's find out. Yeah, you know.
The Breaking Two was in Vienna, right? And I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. Congrats. Again, we're talking about athletics. Like, it's global news. So I love it. It's promoting the sport I love. But let's not compare. Like, it's also not a race, right? Like, if you have this Mighty Duck V, somebody's like strategically in the middle with no wind, or I mean, you see Marcel Jacobs like running with this tunnel, so somebody was in a bike and he's sprinting behind, right? And like, okay, you have no resistance, so of course you're going to fly. Yeah, that's great. That's great for social media. That's great but he cannot say I've run 9.5. I've run the world record. Many years ago, Justin Gatlin in Japan, I think there was like some TV episode where they put these massive fans behind him, and he had to run 100 meters. And they were saying like, how fast, how much wind does someone need to run Usain's record, right? And so, yeah, we can try a lot of things, but at the end, it's not the same as someone just doing it as it's been done.
The sport generally, just going back to the Grand Slam track, I'm conscious of your time as well, Christian, so we won't keep you for too much longer. But it feels like, you know, a couple of years ago, we were talking about, there were a lot of people talking about how athletics was dying and it needed to be saved, right? Michael Johnson's come along and said he's saving track. Maybe there's a equivalent coming with field as well. Does it feel like to you this is the beginning of athletics moment, that it is pushing back?
I see it as the moment where former greats, so athletes themselves, are saying it's our sport. Like, I love it. I don't want to see it die. I'm going to take ownership and I'm going to find a solution. I, I I feel like I had a decent career, but I can tell you, in my career, I sat at numerous tables where you can't imagine. It felt like we were at this royal 60 people table, and everyone's just talking about the problems. And at no point is someone saying like, well, would you guys be willing to come together and do, like, no one is focused on the solution. Everyone knows the problems. Everyone. And I'm so grateful that Michael is like, I was a track runner. I know the media side. I can use my platform. But I can do my part. I can't do it all. And I always used to say it's better to be great at something than good at many things. He's just saying, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to take ownership and I'm going to do what I can. Let's have more conversations to say, hey, you got this started. Can there be another branch from here? Do we build something separate? But it's like, so many people, especially jumpers, are so quick. I don't want to highlight jumpers, but the field events are so quick to say, like, what about us? Instead of being like, not pointing a finger, what about us? But like, yeah, what about us? Why don't we do something similar?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think it was probably someone on your phone there probably telling you, Christian, that we need to wrap up. But we please close with just some final thoughts on triple jump now. Going forward, World Championship year, massive year. Who excites you most at the moment?
So to be honest, like, I've been a Jordan fan, Jordan Diaz for ages. So I'm extremely excited. I was a bit nervous on it because he did so well so early on. I was a bit nervous on how he was going to develop after puberty and things like. But obviously, he's proven himself. I have to show love to Pedro Pichardo, right? Like, my biggest rival, but also I attribute most of my success to him. No one had pushed me and fired me up like him, and so I do want to see him succeed. I want to see him, go and get another title. But also with Jaden Hibbett, like, you just never know. Like, as we saw in championships, by having now the I think the championship qualification record in Budapest, like, this kid is super dangerous with the triple jump. like it's also about staying healthy. That's part of the secret sauce. Like who can like endure these forces over time. And he was extremely talented at a young age. I think he's actually like learning things, and I know his coach Travis. I believe they're doing a lot of the right things. But now that he's pushed his body so far so quickly, he's just got to take the time to build up that tolerance for it, what's required. But I think he has an extremely bright future. I always want to throw out that, I'm really hoping that there can be one or two 18-meter performances. Um, that would nothing no one would be more excited, and nothing would excite me more than to see the triple jump on fire. I've always wanted the best for my competitors, and wanted the best for anyone in that field, because it's like I want the triple jump to always be a major topic, when it comes to athletics. But I think those are going to be basically the three biggest hitters going in. And
Do you think they're
women's
Do you think
side,
they're capable of world record? Those three.
I definitely think at this point, between Jaden and Jordan, it's like those two are capable of it. But health is gonna be a big factor. You see uh, Jordan's leg wrapped up quite a bit. You don't see Jaden for quite, so I don't want to speculate or put anything out there, but I know as a jumper, like, injuries do happen. And so it's who's going to be able to not rush the process, and be able to tolerate that. And I have to give a lot of love to Ulamar also, right?
I was
Like,
going to say, great to see her back this year, hopefully.
yeah, I'm really excited, and it was announced that she would be back and competing. And I know firsthand that Achilles is not easy to come back from. But she's somebody that lit the fire up. She was an entertainer also, and so I'm 100% rooting for her, and I'm excited to hopefully see her back in, even if it's not in top shape, just to come back to, for that resilient spirit. I think it's going to be so important, because I don't believe her career should end like this. I believe she deserves better.
Christian, thank you so much for taking such an obscene amount of time out of your day to just talk, chew the fat with us, go through all the British cities out there. I'm sure we've missed a few, but we've
Birmingham.
named
No,
it.
we did do Birmingham. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's
we did.
fine.
Yeah, we've named a few of the best. We'll have to get you back on sometime. We'll do like a beer tasting tour around
Oh yes,
those
Europe.
come
towns.
on.
And yeah, we'll do Vienna. We'll get your German up to scratch.
I
It'll
like
be
it.
sehr gut by the end.
Yeah, super, super. No, thank you all really for these opportunities to just like you said, just talk track, and I hope that this can continue to grow, and we can build this out, and yeah, I'm always game to have this conversation. So thank you all.